out because we need as specific and close to the color as possible. So hopefully we mix our Claydonian colors today and we mix our mask colors tomorrow. Then, how many of you did not finish plastering yet? Raise your hand if you didn't finish plastering. If you didn't finish plastering, you have the option to come in during study halls, or after we mix all of our paint colors, you can resume plastering. You'll just be a little bit behind on paint. So anyone remember the date that all of this is due? All of the painting, everything's done, ready for me to turn in so I can grade it, Dylan?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, that's the 30th, before you guys go on your little break. So, we need to review paint before we can start today. A couple of things is just about colors in general. So I have this color wheel on the board as a reminder. When you look and see your paint colors you have available to you, you kind of have set up over here like we used to have the clay in the little slots. You have paint containers and then you have paint brushes underneath it. What color noticeably is missing from here that many of you will want to use on your project, whether it's your mask or whether it's your Claydonian?
Brown.
Yep. Brown. And hopefully this is a review. There is a way to mix brown just by using only 2 colors on the color wheel. Does anyone know a set of 2 colors that you can use to make brown? Yep.
Green and red.
Green and red is definitely one color that, or one set of colors that you can use. Hunter, what's
Blue and orange.
Blue and orange. Nice job remembering, and that means there's one last pair. Red and green, blue and orange, and purple and yellow. So, those are the 3 pairs I would suggest you to use. I have a little way in my head that I remember which tone of brown to use, and I also have a way of remembering which ones. If you are a football person, I always like to say the Vikings play the Bears at Christmas. And that's just because their team colors are purple and yellow, and the Bears are blue and orange, and then Christmas is usually red and green. And it also helps me remember the type of brown it makes. So the bear color, it really does truly make like a chocolatey brown bear color, the orange and the blue. The Vikings, I don't like the Vikings, so this makes sense. It kind of makes like a swampy brown color. And then red and green kind of makes like a more reddishy brown color, which kind of makes sense for Christmas. So that's a good way for me to remember. I just made that up so that it could help me. But you do have the color wheel and you have people at your table to help you remember as well. Now, say though, I have brown, but my brown is more of like the color of your table, like a tannish. What could you do with the other paints to mix it so that it's more of like the color that you actually want it to be? You want it a little bit lighter. Cindy?
Add black, or you can add white to be able to light.
White would be the lighter, and then black could be your darker option. Sometimes, though, when you add black, it turns like a weird color. So we'll talk about how you can darken colors in just a second. But white is definitely how you're going to make your tint. So if I wanted to make tan, does anyone have a guess of how much blue, and we'll just say I want like that brown bear kind of color, how much blue and orange versus white would I put in a little container to mix up? Does anyone have a guess of like the amounts, the ratio? How much of which color? Would I do more white, or would I do more of the blue and the orange? If I wanted like a white tan. Here we go. More of the brown would probably make it like a medium brown. But if you really want a light color, I always want you to remember to start with your lightest color no matter what color you're mixing, because you can always get colors darker. But if you accidentally fill your container, let's just say you want gray, all the way with black, and you wanted to try to get it gray, you would need like a whole container of this white to get it gray. So it's really easy to darken things. Think of just having a plain white sheet of paper, and as soon as you make a mark on it with a pencil, you darken it right away. Easy to get things darker. It's very hard. Think of trying to erase to get it back lighter. That's harder. So you always want more lighter and then slowly make it a little bit darker as you go. If I wanted to darken it, I do want to tell you another cool way that you can darken a color before you just go ahead and add the black to it. That is one way, but if you have yellow and you add black, it makes this weird, like, gross, slimy green color. So what you can do to dull the color out is almost the same way you make brown as you add the opposite. So say I want more of like this golden yellow. If I add black, it's not going to work out. Instead, I add its opposite. So purple is going to sort of tone it down. It kind of helps you remember that this is sort of neutralizing it. Any kind of color that crosses over neutralizes. So if I add just a tiny touch of violet to my yellow, it'll make a really nice golden color. And you can do that to any color. If I want more of like a maroonishy red, just a touch of green will help that. So if you add the color that's exact opposite. Now the reason I'm talking so much about mixing colors is because you have to mix all of your colors. Now you're thinking, what if I have a ladybug in mine and it's red? Why can't I just use red? There's 3 reasons. Number 1 is that it kind of looks too primary, meaning like anyone can just squirt a color out and paint it on a project. You want it to be a little bit more interesting and specific to your animal. Second reason is because it's too see-through otherwise. So if you layer colors on top of each other, like mixed together, it'll make it more solid or opaque. And then the other reason, too, is because most of your drawings are probably done with like a slightly different shade, especially when it comes to your math. There would be no reason to use a color straight out of the tube. It just probably wouldn't look like your animal at all. So with all of those reasons, you have to mix your colors. Now, what if you want something to really look as close to red as possible? You could just add a tiny bit of color. One trick is to add white to any of these colors, and it'll make it a little bit more solid without necessarily making it pink. So if I wanted a ladybug and I did red with just a little white, it'll help it make it look more solid. So please mix all of your colors together. If you have a question about mixing today, I can definitely help you out. I'm going to show you what you're going to mix inside. These are the little kind of chiclet-sized containers, and they have lids on them. When you get your container, I want you to put your Sharpie, your name on it right away, because it's kind of crazy. People like steal each other's paint. So I want you to be able to have your own color so that nobody takes yours. I know it's really hot on the market paint. So you're going to mix inside of here is your brushes. Now, please don't use the back end of your brush. I know then you wouldn't have to use the wash out the bristles, but then it like chips away at all of this green stuff. We have a really good thing and a really bad thing. We have brand new brushes, which is excellent. The bad part about that is we have to make sure they are spotless. So with painting, I leave plenty of time at the end to clean brushes, and kind of overwhelming a little bit because it's one person's job to clean all the brushes. I do that because otherwise at the sink there's a line of 30 people, and that's just too much. So instead I have one person gather all 12 of your brushes and go wash them out. Now, knowing that you have to clean all 12, I would be smart about how you use your brushes. For instance, right after you mix a color, if you're done mixing, you can go to the sink throughout the hour to wash it out. That would be way better than having 12 really dirty brushes at the end of the hour. The newspaper on the table will help clean up just a little bit too, because you won't have to chip away at the table, because we really are picky about cleaning up with the brushes, and the table's paint is what really ruins a lot of things. So we have to be careful about that. The other thing that you might find when you're starting to get your supplies is you may find a painting container that looks like this with tin foil on top of it. That's because someone has used as much of the paint as possible out of here by cutting the bottle open. If your bottle is low, I would grab a partner from your table, and you're just going to come over to this little station next to the sink. Use one of these scissors over here, and then what you end up doing is taking off, I'll just cut this one, it's pretty low. Take off the top, squeeze. Actually, I think I found it. I know I'm digging in the garbage, but you can try it with or without the top. Some people like to cut it with. I like to kind of get all the air out. But anyways, you're going to cut it right on the side where the label is. And the reason a partner is nice, because one person can be squeezing and the other person can be cutting. It's kind of a hard job to do by yourself. So I'm going to actually suggest you put the cap on. I wonder if it'll squeeze, like keep all the air inside of it better. But anyways, I'll have somebody help me in a second with this yellow one. You need to cut this all the way off. And then there's tin foil right here that you just cap on top of it. If you're struggling, I don't know, I might switch to this, but we'll see. If that's what you need to do though, just come on over and cut that off. We're only going to start with our Cladonians right now. So you don't need your Cladonian to actually paint on, because we're only going to be mixing colors this hour. And then last thing is storage of your little paint cups. We used to have where we would store these cups right next to our projects, like next to our map, but then they would fall through like little clinkles all the way down. So instead, we developed a system where we just have buckets right underneath. So you guys are this blue color, right? These are your shelves. So underneath, there's a matching container for you. So this is table number 1, and it's blue. And at the end of the hour, you're just going to keep them all in here. So in a second, what I'm going to ask somebody to do is grab all of the paint supplies. You have to check the brushes first. If you check the brushes at the end of the hour and tell me that they're dirty, I'm just going to say, sorry, you didn't tell me at the beginning. You're just going to have to clean them all. And then when you have this bucket at your table, the brushes at your table, and the paint at your table, see if you need to cut anything first or replace any paint right away. And then these cups are feel free to take what you need. The colors that people forget about on theirs are black and white. I do want you to put black and white in the cups, but they are luckily the only colors that you do not need to mix because there's no other way to get pure black or pure white. So hopefully you at least have a minimum of 3 colors on your Claydonian because that was the minimum for what you needed to do for your project. And then keep that out in front of you and I will help you mix your Claydonian colors today as you work. So, any questions before we get started? Alright, thanks Hunter. And the rest of you guys can